Back to the session. Next one, composite rent. So your composite rent is nothing but any services or any additional facilities which has been provided by the assessee to the tenant while providing the house property on the basis of let out basis. So that amount will be called as composite rent. Means not only is providing the house property for the let out, in addition to the house property is providing any extra services or any extra amenities like furniture or any other services like gardener, housekeeping, etc. For that he is going to charge the extra amount called as composite rent. So even the composite rent will be taxable under the head called as income from other sources. So if the assessee receives composite rent from his tenant, the portion of the tenant attributable to the building should be assessed as income from house property. So whatever the rent which has been received only from the house property or building, then that income will be taken to the head called as income from house property. And the remaining amount called as the extra facilities which has been provided by the assessee like services or amenities, that remaining portion will be taken to the head called as income from other sources. So whatever the rent which has been received from only the building, that will be taken to the head called as house property. And if any additional facilities or additional services provided by the assessee to the tenant, then you need to collect the rent amount. Such rent amount will be taken to the head called as income from other sources. Now, on the other hand, if composite rent is inseparable, means we cannot divide or we cannot separate the composite from the actual rent, then the entire rent, that is whatever the amount which has been received from the tenant, it will be taken or it will be calculated as income from other sources or income from business. Either it can be taken to the income from other sources or it can be treated as income from business. But if in case it can be separable, actual building rent will be taken to the income from house property aid and the composite rent will be taken to the income from other sources. If it is not separable, either we can taken to the income from other sources or it can be taken to the income from business. Next, the seventh one, that is rental income from machinery, plant, or furniture. So, if you are providing any machinery or any plant or any furniture on the higher basis, then you are going to earn the income called as rental income. And such income, if it is not taxable under the head called as profit and gains from business or profession, means if they're not taken to the head called as business or profession head, then that income will be taken to the head called as income from other sources. So rental income is nothing but whenever the assessee has provided the any machinery, plant or furniture on higher basis, is going to get the rental income. And if such income is not taken under the head or not chargeable under the head called as income from business or profession, and that left out income will be taken to the head called as income from other sources. And from such income, we need to claim the deduction, that is either it may be repairs or it may be any depreciation or insurance premium can be taken or it can be allowed as deduction from such income. Next important one, income from subletting. So subletting is nothing but he has taken the house property from the owner by paying the amount of rupees rent or by paying the rent amount. So if he feels that the rent amount is more to him, so he can sublet or he can let the portion of house property to the another person or another customer. So from them he can collect the amount. So that process will be called as subletting. Means he has already taken the house property on the basis of let out, and if he feels that the rent amount is more to him, so he can let the or he can give the portion of house property to the another person and he can collect the amount from that person as a rent. So that is called as income from subletting. Now, if in case in the problem they have given the income or rental income from the sublet portion shall be taken to the head called as income from other sources, because the any income from the house property will be taken to the head called as income from house property, but the subletting portion income will not be taken to the income from house property, hence it will be taken to the head called as income from other sources. And from the income from subletting, we can claim the exemption by calculating the as follows. First, we need to take the rent income from or rent from sublet portion, means whatever the amount we are paying to the rent or whatever the rent amount we are paying to the sublet portion, and from that we need to minus the expenditure on sublet portion. So information regarding the expenditure will be given in the problem. So we need to claim that expenditure. The balance amount will be taxable under the head called as income from other sources. Means whatever the amount we are paying in the form of rent, and from that whatever the expenditure we have incurred for that sublet portion, we need to claim the deduction, and the balance amount will be chargeable to the head called as income from other sources. Next important one, that is gifts. So already we know that any gift from the relatives, if we have received, that amount is fully exempted from the taxes, correct? So any gift which has been received from the relatives or in the form of gift on the occasion called as marriage or by the way of will is fully exempted from the taxes. But any gift which has been received from the non-relative, I'm repeating, any gift which has been received from the non-relative, if it is exceeding rupees 50,000 in the previous year, it is fully taxable. So any gift which has been received from non-relative, and if it is exceeding rupees 50,000 in the previous year, it is fully taxable. But if you are receiving any gift from the relative, or if you are receiving any gift from the at the time of marriage or by will, then such amount or such gifts is fully exempted from taxes. Now the question arises, who is the or what is the meaning of relative? Who are will be included in the term relative? So for that, they are told that the assessee, the person who is going to pay the taxes, and his spouse, either it may be husband or wife, and brothers and sisters of assessees or spouse, brother and sister of father or mother of assessee, lineal ascendant or descendant of the assessee or spouse. There's nothing but father, son, grandson, etc. will be taken to the category. But it will not be include the word called as cousin and brother and sister of grandfather, mother of assessee, spouse, elder brother of the father-in-law. So whenever you have seen the word gift, we need to check whether it has been received from the relative or non-relative. So relative is nothing but assessee, is husband or wife, that is spouse, brother and sisters of assessee or spouse, brother and sister of father or mother of assessee, lineal ascendant or descendant of the assessee or spouse, that is son, grandson, daughter, granddaughter. But it is not given the permission for cousin. So if you see that, if they given the word called as cousin, so it is from a non-relative, and if it is exceeding more than 50,000 rupees, the entire amount will be taxable under the head called as income from other sources. So there is a chart called as, this is before, that is, there's a chart that is money or property is received on or after October 1st, 2009. So if any money or if any property which has been received in the form of gift on or after 1 October 2009, the following calculations has to be done. If you are receiving the gift before 1st October 2009, the condition says that if you are receiving the amount from the relative, the entire amount is fully exempted from the taxes. If you are receiving the amount from the non-relative, if it is exceeding more than 50,000 rupees, it is fully taxable. Here, the chart represents that if you are receiving the gift from non-relative after 1st October 2009, then the calculations has to be done as per the chart. So see the calculation. They told that gift received from an unrelated person in the form of. So if you are receiving any gift from the non-relative, then the chart will be applicable only if the gift has been received on or after October 2009. So please check the date, and after that we need to take the calculation. First one, if you are receiving the movable property from the unrelated person or non-relative person, then that movable property may be cash or it may be a capital asset. Either it may be furniture or it may be any equipments. So if you are receiving any cash from the unrelated person and the total of all the transactions, so they told that aggregate is nothing but total of all the transaction in the form of cash for the previous year, not the individual transaction, total transaction of all the gifts has to be taken to the consideration, and after calculating that, if that total amount is less than rupees 50,000, then it is fully exempted from taxes. I'm repeating, if you are receiving any gift in the form of mobile property, that is in the form of cash, in the previous year, then we need to take the total of all the transaction in the form of cash gift, and we need to check whether the total is less than 50,000 is fully exempted from taxes. But if the total transaction or total gifts in the form of cash is more than 50,000, then the whole amount is taxable under the head called as income from other sources. This is the procedure for cash. And if you are receiving the capital asset, either it may be furniture or either it may be any other things, jewelry or anything, then we need to take same aggregate value from all the transaction, not the individual asset. All the asset has to be taken into consideration, and we need to take the aggregate or the total value of all the assets. And if the fair market value is less than 50,000, okay, in the problem they will give the fair market value, and we need to check that whether the fair market value is less than 50,000 or more than 50,000, total of all the value. So if the fair market value is less than 50,000, then it is fully exempted from taxes. And if the total of all the assets or total of all the capital asset transaction is, if fair market value is more than 50,000, then the whole amount is taxable. Is the procedure for identifying the amount in the form of gift, that is for the mobile property. So if you are receiving cash and we need to take all the transaction has to the consideration, and we need to check whether the total of the cash gift is less than 50,000 is fully exempted. If the total of cash receipts is more than 50,000, is whole amount is taxable, not the difference amount, entire amount is taxable. And if you are receiving the capital asset from the non-related person, and we need to take all the transaction to the consideration, that is in the previous year, and we need to check whether that all the transaction value, that is fair market value, is less than 50,000, then the value will be fully exempted. If the fair market value of all the transaction is more than 50,000, then the whole amount is taxable. Second category they have given called as immovable property. Either it may be building or it may be land or any other thing. Now, if you are receiving the gift in the form of immovable property on or after October 1st, 2009, then the procedure or the process will be when you are paying any or when you are not paying any consideration, that is you are not paying any return amount to the gift or the asset, then what will be the process? Means if you are receiving the gift in the form of immovable property without paying any consideration, that is without paying any return amount, then we need to take the stamp value of each individual transaction, not the entire assets. We need to take the stamp value of each individual transaction. So the problem will be given that the stamp value of the so and so asset is rupees 60,000 or 70,000. So individually we need to take into consideration, not the total or aggregate. Now the stamp value of each individual transaction, if it is less than 50,000, I'm repeating, the stamp value of the each individual transaction without paying any amount by the assessee, if it is less than 50,000, then it is fully exempted from the taxes. But if you are receiving the gift in the form of building or land, that is immovable property, without paying any amount, and the stamp value of each individual transaction is more than 50,000, if it is more than 50,000 rupees, entire amount or whole amount is taxable. This is when you are receiving the gift without, that is immovable property, without paying any amount. So we need to take the stamp value and we need to check the stamp value of each individual transaction. So if the each individual transaction stamp value is less than 50,000, is fully exempted from the tax. And if the stamp value of each individual transaction is more than 50,000, whole amount is taxable. Second one, if you are receiving the immovable property and with inadequate consideration, means less than the fair market value, or less than the, or you are paying the amount which is not equal to the value of the property, then the difference in the stamp value each individual transaction has to be considered. That is, whatever the amount you have paid and what is the stamp value of the property, we need to take the consideration, and the difference in the balance, that is stamp value as well as the amount you have paid, then we need to consider the difference amount, then that difference amount is less than 50,000. Assume that we have received the gift from the father in the form of building. Now I'm paying the amount, the value of the stamp value of the building is 10 lakh rupees, but I'm paying the value of rupees 2 lakh. Now the difference amount called as 8 lakh rupees we need to take into consideration. So that 8 lakh rupees, if it is less than 50,000, is fully exempted from the taxes. But if it is more than 50,000, so 8 lakh is more than 50,000, so entire whole amount, that is entire 8 lakh rupees, will be taxable under the head called as income from other sources. So be careful while calculating the gift from the party or the assessee. Next one, insurance commission. So if any amount in the form of insurance has been received by the assessee, that is not an insurance, it is an insurance commission. Means you have provided the policy and for that you have taken the commission, and that commission will be treated as an income from other sources. So that amount called as insurance commission. And whatever the amount you have received from the insurance commission, if it is more than 20,000, means you are working as an insurance agent and for that you are getting the commission, and if that commission amount, if it is exceeding rupees 20,000, then the insurance company can deduct the tax from the sources. Okay, now if the net insurance commission is given in the problem, means in the problem if they mention the word called as net, then it is a net insurance amount, so we need to do the gross up. that is gross of commission or gross insurance commission, can be done by using the formula called as net amount into 100 divided by 100 minus tax rate. So be careful. Any insurance commission which has been received by the assessee, if it is exceeding rupees 20,000, so the company or the insurance company have the right to deduct the tax from the sources. And if the net amount, that is the word which has been used by the company called as net, if it is given in the problem, so we need to do the gross up, means we need to add back the taxes. So it can be calculated by using the formula called as gross commission equals to net amount into 100 divided by 100 minus tax rate. Next, interest on compensation or enhanced compensation. So if you are receiving any interest on the compensation amount or additional compensation amount, then it is taxable under the head called as income from other sources. Now, from that interest on compensation or enhanced compensation, we can claim the exemption or the deductions under section 57. That is, if you are receiving the interest on compensation of rupees 50,000, from that 50,000, 50% of the amount can be claimed as deduction under section 57. So 50,000 minus 50%, that is 25,000. The balance amount, rupees 25,000, will be taxable under the head called as income from other sources. So they have clearly mentioned, from such interest, a sum equal to 50% of the interest would be allowed as deduction. No other deductions would be admissible. Only the standard deduction is 50% can be claimed from the interest on compensation or enhanced compensation. Other than that, we cannot claim any additional compensation or additional deduction. Last one, that is deemed income. So we already know that deemed income are the incomes which is not a income. To say in simple terms, deemed income are not an income, but we are assuming as an income. So deemed incomes are not incomes, but as per the Income Tax Act, they are regarded as income and included in the taxable income from other sources or business. So the following are considered as deemed income, that is cash credit, unexplained expenditure, unexplained investment, unexplained money, etc. Means we are not getting the source of income, or we are not getting the information where the income can be raised. So such income will be called as deemed income, and it will be taken to the head called as income from other sources. So deemed incomes are the incomes which is not an income, but as per the Income Tax Act, we are going to assume as an income, and we are going to take to the head called as income from other sources or business. These are the TDS tax rates or the rate of TDS. So be careful. We need to know what is the rate of TDS. So first one, the interest on security issued by the statutory or authority. Statutory body or local authority, that is from the government, the rate of TDS is 10%. And if it is listed securities, 10%, unlisted securities, 10%, bank interest, 10%, casual income, 30%, insurance commission, 5%, commission on sale of lottery tickets, 5%, rent of plant and machinery, 2%, and rent of land or building or furniture or fittings, 10%. So this rate of TDS will be useful when in the problem they have given the net value, because we need to do the grossing up. For doing the grossing up, we need to know the rate of TDS. By using this rate, we can do the gross up. Thank you.